Hello and welcome. For this hip mobility practice, we're gonna need a block. So keep that next to you and lie down somewhere where you have some space. Once you arrive, keep your knees bent. You can just rest your hands wherever's comfortable for you and maybe close your eyes. Just take in a nice full breath through the nose. Let it out through the nose as well. Let's do that one more time. On the inhale, just bringing a little mental focus, paying attention to your breath. And on the exhale, finding a little bit of release or relaxation. Now, heel toe your feet a little bit wider on your mat. So your feet are out near the outer edges. And start to sway your knees from side to side like windshield wipers. As you do this, let your hips rotate as well. So the pelvic bowl is turning. One hip will come off the ground entirely. Next time your knees go to the left, just leave them there. Take another breath in through the nose, just sharpening the attention. Take it out through the nose, softening any strain. Then staying where you are, just pick up your head. You can use your hands to help. Look down your hip. Move your foot a little bit more to the right, your right foot more to the right, so that your knee begins to back up more in line with your hip. It doesn't have to be perfectly there, but just see where that is in space. Bring that right foot back where it came from. Bring the knees upright and sweep them over to the right. Just land there, so the right knee is probably on the ground, the outer edge of the thigh, really, not the knee. And the left hip right now is off the floor, and that whole left leg is turned in. Then just walk your left foot a little bit more to the left, maybe an inch or so. Don't go too far. I mean, if you're feeling any strain in the knee, then just back off that edge. You can look down the leg and see maybe it's in line with the hip, maybe it's a little bit to the right of your hip. Either would be fine. Walk the foot back toward the right and bring your knees upright. Bring your feet to parallel-ish. I know you can't see them. Somewhat closer to your hips. And then we're going to take a low bridge. So squeeze your butt muscles and lift your hips up a little bit off the floor. It doesn't have to be your highest maximum height. Stomp down on your feet, especially the inner edges, and see if you can consciously squeeze the muscles of your butt. That's what's helping lift your hips. As before, breathe in and just pay attention to that feeling of engagement in your muscles, that sharpness of mind. When you exhale, roll down like you're trying to go one spinal bone at a time, landing with your tailbone last. On exhale or the next exhale, just relax for a second. And then we're gonna play with this windshield wiper shape in a different way than we just did. So what you're gonna start with is you're gonna take your, let's take the left leg out first. We're gonna take it straight, and then we're gonna move it off the mat wide. It's just to get the leg out of the way a little bit. Then with the right leg, you're gonna tiptoe the foot to the right again, sort of like when you did the windshield wipers. Here's the difference this time. You're gonna turn your right leg in, but you're not gonna let your hips lift or turn off the floor. So the right hip is gonna stay down the entire time. And as you turn, that internal rotation in your leg, walk your foot to the right so that your knee is pretty much straight in line with your hip if you look down. And I'm using my hand just to hold my head up more. Now, when you hit that limit of rotation, this is where you're going to use your block. Most people's knees don't make it to the floor. Some do, but you're going to take your block and wedge it underneath somewhere on your thigh or your knee so that you're supporting your knee joint. And we're going to hold here for a little bit, because what we want here is we want all around the right hip socket, all those little tight rotator muscles to begin to let go. So your job while you're resting here is to try to allow your right knee to drop in and down, and at the same time to drop your right hip back to the floor. Some people find it useful to put the left knee bent and push down with that foot to help kind of roll the pelvis more to a level position. Just be cautious if you do that. You can push pretty hard with that foot on the ground, and I just want you to be gentle with your right hip joint. And then this is where you get to bring in a little bit of a mindfulness practice. And how we're going to do that to keep the mind present and not to just want to get up and get out of the position is be very curious about what you're feeling. Where, if anywhere, do you feel sensation in your body right now? What does that sensation feel like? Is it aching, burning, tingling, pulsating? Is it in one place, or is it moving around? You can keep being curious and investigating. Just remember to relax the right knee into the prop and to allow that outer right hip to drop onto the floor. Breathe in through the nose, just paying attention, being mindful. Breathe out through the nose, finding any level of relaxation. Let's do that for 2 more breaths. In through the nose, out through the nose. And walk your right foot back toward the middle as you lift your knee off the block. You can reach down and grab your block with your hand, and we're going to turn this into a twist. So you're going to bring that right leg across your body to the left, and you're going to place the block under your knee, under your thigh, under your calf. And you could do this with a straight leg if that's comfortable, or a bent leg, whatever is easier for your body right now. And we're going to work the twist at this point. So don't worry about your right leg too much at this point in time. Just get it supported so it feels stable. With your left hand, place it on the top of your leg somewhere so that you can pull down. Now that's going to be leverage as you pull down to twist your belly to the right. So we're going to do a little bit of a pulsation where we go into muscular effort and then relax off of the muscular effort. On the outside, it probably won't look like that much different is happening. So on exhale, push down with your hand, twist to the right, anchor the right shoulder to the earth. Stay in the twist. On inhale, relax that effort. Do that 2 more times. Exhale, twist. Right shoulder presses back. Inhale, relax. Last one, exhale, belly twists right. Pull down with your left hand. You can push that right shoulder into the ground. Now hold that. On in-breath, sweep your right arm up overhead. It would be overhead if you were standing. And then as you exhale, you have one of two choices depending on the space you have. You can either kind of snow angel it along the floor, out and down, back toward your hips. I have a wall in the way, so the other option is bend your elbow like you're creating a goalpost with your arm and drag your elbow down along the floor as if you were going to put it on your right hip. Then inhale, straighten the arm, reach it overhead, just sliding your arm along the floor. Exhale, bend the elbow, twisting still. Last one, inhale, reach. Exhale, bend. Then we're gonna come, as if we're gonna roll onto our side, we're just gonna wrap that right arm overhead and reach out toward the right foot. Round the back, tuck the chin in. Then come out of that reaching shape, chest a little bit more toward the ceiling. And then you're gonna keep your leg roughly parallel to the floor, bent or straight, doesn't matter. And then you're gonna pick it up off of your block so that you strengthen those outer hip muscles and leg muscles. So hold here, 10, hovering, 9, 8, don't move anything else, just hold it, 6, 5, you should feel the outer hip burning, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend your knee, put that foot on the floor. You can bend up that left leg again, and then we're gonna return to this block under the knee and just do one more action here. So kind of leveling the hips out again, sort of back to where we just came from. This time you're gonna slip your foot up onto your right knee. So this is less to put pressure down and more to provide resistance. So now your foot is gonna push down into the outside of your leg, however it works for you to push down. And then you're gonna push your knee up into your foot. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax your knee back down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Push up with your knee, down with your foot. Your legs just kind of resting on the block still, but you're efforting. You're pushing up, outer right hip working, and now relax back down. We're gonna do it one more time, and I want you to hold it something like 8 to 10 seconds. So knee up, foot down, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Hold that right hip on the floor if you can. 3, 2, 1. Knee down, foot off. Phew. Bring your knee up, walk your foot to the middle. You can move the block out of the way. And then you're gonna take that right knee, the leg that did all that work, bring it in toward your chest and just hold with your hands. As you draw it in, relax your low back to the floor and see if you can find a track on which to point your knee where you feel like your hip is evenly settled into your hip socket. So it's not too wide or too narrow for your body. Where does it need to be where it feels even all around that joint? Just gave me an automatic sigh. So when the joint is centered like that, it tells the nervous system that things are safe, so you can let go a little bit more. As you exhale, you're gonna pick up your head, round your back, and tuck your waistline down, just doing like a little mini crunch. And then release, foot down. You can keep your fingers interlaced. We're gonna sweep the arms overhead and come up with the hips into a low bridge. So with the fingers interlaced, push the knuckles away from the head. Press into the inner edges of your feet. Squeeze your butt muscles. Take your hips up. Doesn't have to be to your highest height. Just work the butt muscles and just feel the difference in your right leg versus your left leg. Does it feel, what does it feel like from one leg to the other? Drive your knuckles away from your head. Try to squeeze your arms straight. Inhale. Roll down on the exhale, one bone at a time if you can, lengthening until the tailbone lands. Arms still stretching away, nice and long. On exhale, release your arms. Now we're gonna do all that stuff on the other side. So step one is gonna be that you're gonna move your left foot out to the left, and you're gonna stretch your right leg out and move out to the right, so it's out of the way. Then you're gonna turn your left knee in, and you're gonna try to keep your outer left hip down, so it's different than windshield wipers. So this is the kind of the mobility of it. We're controlling the flexibility. So flexibility, there's not really strength involved, you're just passively stretching over. Mobility involves controlling things, moving the joint through its range of motion or controlling something differently where you're not just passively hanging out there. So we're asking left hip stay down, left knee turn in. And when you reach that point where like you can't go anymore without one of those things giving, place the block under your knee. Again, you're trying to kind of have the knee straight down from your hip, so you might have to walk your foot off to the left. The inner edge of the foot is where the weight is coming. Your outer foot is up. So you just find a place for your block to rest your knee on. It might be your thigh, depends on how high your knee is. And again, we're gonna just hang out here because it takes a while for this to let go. This is a strange shape for most people. And we're trying to support the knee so that there isn't really strain in the knee, that instead we're feeling something around the hip socket. Maybe it's the outer hip. I definitely feel this come into my outer kind of butt area, the upper part of the glutes, and even into my sacroiliac joint. This is the side that can sometimes be painful for me. And this feels like it kind of opens up that tight tissue there. So bring back your mindfulness practice. Be curious about what you feel in your body. Not trying to change the feeling unless it's hurting you, and then of course readjusting so that you're taking your own well-being into account. Just in your mind, remembering to try to drop that left hip down. Maybe you like bending the right knee to kind of steer the hips that way a little bit more. Just be cautious that you're not pushing or forcing. We're doing some delicate work here with some delicate areas. So breath in through the nose, focusing the mind. Breath out through the nose, finding any layer of relaxation that you can. Two more breaths. I find that this kind of practice really does help not just my hips, but my back as well. So you may feel that as well for you. Okay, we're going to begin to move in the direction of the twist, so you can kind of reach down and move the block and kind of pick up that left leg and turn. Oops. You're going to take the block under your left leg. I like it the highest height. I feel like that's more hip width for me, but medium height would also work. And then you're placing your right hand on top of your left leg to press down or pull down. And then that's going to give you leverage to turn your belly to the left. So your chest is turning a little more toward the ceiling, and we're going to do an active pulsation of muscular action and then relaxation. So it goes something like this. Inhale, pausing here. Exhale, twist belly to left, anchor left shoulder to the floor, and pull the right knee down. Stay in the twist, just inhale, relax the muscular effort. And do that 2 more times. Exhale, engage the action of twisting. Do more, do a little more. Inhale, relax the effort of twisting. Last one, exhale, turn, belly, shoulder. Right knee kind of forward, away from your hip and down toward the floor. Oof. Then, using your left arm, depending on the space you have around you, you're going to do it one of 2 ways. To start, you're going to reach your arm up overhead, sliding your palm, back of your palm or hand along the floor. And then those 2 options are kind of like a snow angel on the exhale, just sweeping it along the floor, inhaling it back up. Or if you don't have the room to reach out to the side, you would just bend your elbow and drag it along the floor as if to bring it to your back. Inhale, stretch, overhead. Last one like this. Exhale, draw it down. When you inhale again, you're going to kind of roll to the right and kind of reach out, letting your left shoulder come all the way off the ground. I think of it almost like cat pose, kind of stretching, rounding. I lift my head even and tuck my tail and head in. And then returning back toward on your back. Your chest is still kind of going to face up toward the ceiling, but the hips are stacked, left on top of right, and we're going to begin to hover the left leg. So pick your leg up off the block, 1 inch or less, no support, just hover it, parallel to the floor. Try to hold still. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You should feel that in the outside of your leg and hip somewhere. Step that left foot back to the ground. Walk it back to the left. You can turn your hips back to straight. And then once more, place the block under your knee for support. So this is where we started with this inner rotation here. Changing now to add right foot on top of left knee. If that doesn't work for you, you could always put something against it, like I would use my stick mobility sticks or something, but you're just providing resistance. So you're pushing down with your foot, and then you push up with your knee, and those 2 things are working together, and you'll feel the outside of your leg engage. And then put it down. We're going to do it 2 more times. So it's kind of hovering off the block or lightly resting on it. Knee and foot work together. Push 1 down, 1 up, 5, hold, 4, 3. Try to get the left hip down, 2, 1. Put it down. Rest. We have 1 more to go. 8 to 10 seconds. Okay, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Hold steady. 4. Keep at it. 2, 1. Good. Put the knee down. Take the foot off. Walk the foot in to pick the knee up. Move the block away. And then bring your knee into your hands and let your low back relax down. As you draw it in with your hands, you're looking for a track alignment with your knee, wider, narrower, left to right, where you feel like the head of your femur, it's a ball, is seated evenly in the socket. Do you need external rotation, internal rotation? Knee away, knee in, where do you need to be to feel that? When you really achieve that like sense of balance, that centration, your nervous system will go, ah. And that's a cue that you're in a good spot. Okay, put your foot back down. We're going to do bridge pose 1 more time. And this time we're going to use the block under the hips, kind of a more traditional way. So you can go the highest way or the middle way as long as your block feels stable. So you put it under your tailbone, not your low back. Okay? So sacrum, tailbone, somewhere in there. So just get secure where it doesn't feel like your block is tipping or you're going to fall off of it. And then we're going to use our hands to help create a little bit of stability, really the elbows and the hands. So the elbows are going to stay on the floor, and we're going to kind of wrap the thumbs to the glute side of the hip pelvic rim, and then the fingers kind of on the top side. And what you're going to do is just push into the rim of your pelvis in the direction of your knees. And you don't need to push so hard that your arms are going to like start shaking, but you're providing stability through your arms and hands, because we're going to begin to move the legs and we're going to want that. So clasp on somehow, kind of rock your weight, your pelvis weight away from your head by pushing with your fingers gently, and try to find a manageable amount of pressure to do that with. Okay, so your pelvis, and mine already, it's just like, oh, I feel like I could drool right here because it's just lengthening and letting go. And what we're aiming for at this point in time is that the back of the pelvis, that's called your sacrum, it is becoming more and more level on the top of your block. So your tail is resting down toward the floor, so that that bony plate of the back of the pelvis is flatter on the block, and your pelvis is more parallel to the ceiling. I went into detail with that because we want to keep that as we begin to move in our next variation. So the movement is going to be like our windshield wipers. We're going to just tip the knees ever so slightly to the right, like a few inches, not very far. And as the knees go to the right, your left hip will shift away from your head, and you might feel that the right hip draws up towards your head. So that plate of your pelvis is rotating like a clock, clockwise, on the top of the block. So you're trying to keep it from tipping right, left. You're just twisting it. It's like the block is twisting along the back of your pelvis. So the knees are still over slightly to the right. And I want you to think of reaching out through your left kneecap. It's like someone's kind of pulling on your thigh bone and tractioning the front of your belly and your hip. You can allow for a little bit of that windshield wiper drop knee position where that left knee starts to drop just ever so slightly in, but really try to keep your pelvis level on the block. Don't let that right hip drop down too much. You can use your right thumb to kind of push up and into your hip to hold that. So we're kind of catching the connective tissue on the block, and as the knees move, it's twisting that tissue along the back and kind of unscrewing some bound up tightness there. Okay, we're gonna go slow, slow, knees to center. And then again, twisting the pelvis. It's not from right to left. It's a rotation where the right hip now will move away from your head. So right side waist gets longer as your knees angle off to the left. So as your knees angle to the left, try not to let your left hip drop down toward the floor. Keep your hips level to the sky, to the ceiling. And instead, oh my Lord, it feels so good. I hope it feels really good to you. So you're pulling your right hip bone away from your head. I'm actually tractioning using my right hand to help push it. And then as the right knee reaches out and falls slightly in, it's really unraveling tight connective tissue in the core of my belly, up into the psoas in my waist, all the way up into like the underside of my diaphragm. So it may not feel that dramatic to you, but maybe it does. Just picture, again, the pelvis is kind of flush on the block. It's not tipping to the left. It's rotating right hip away from head, so right waist is longer, reaching out through the right knee as both knees are leaning a few inches to the left. Bring back that focus of breath, just in through the nose. Out through the nose. Go back to center. Dang, that felt really good for me. I hope you guys like it. Walk the feet back to a normal position if they're not. Squeeze your glutes. You already learned this to lift off the block. Take the block out, put it to the side, roll back down. Once you land, give a couple of breaths. That was pretty dramatic feeling for me. So if it was for you too, you're really going to want to just sit here for a second. And let your back readjust. Okay, pick up the knees. Draw both knees in this time, still kind of tracking the knees, each in its own track, to favor supporting your hips in their sockets. Let your back relax down towards the floor. On exhale, crunch up. On inhale, release down. Put feet on floor. Roll to the side. Use your hands to come upright. Okay, we were down there for a long time, so you don't need to rush. We're just gonna do one brief exercise to include the shoulders. I always like to do something, if I'm working on my hips like that, to bring the upper body in so it doesn't feel left out. It's not gonna be too long or complicated, but you're gonna come to all fours and have that same block with you. And you wanna hold it in such a way where you could pick it up. So I like from the side because that's an easier grip. And you're gonna move it off to the side. Let's do it with the right hand first. You're gonna move your block off to the side so that you can keep your chest square to the floor, just like you were doing with your hips a second ago. So with the chest square to the floor, you can check by putting your right hand back down on the mat. That shouldn't change. You're gonna just slightly bend your elbow, pick the block up, hold 2, go 2 counts to bring it down. We're gonna do that 2 more times. Try not to shift to the left. 1, 2, hold up, 2, drop it down, 2, touch the floor. So we're doing it one more time. We got 2 counts up, hold 2 counts, 2 counts down, leave the block behind, thread your right hand behind your left wrist, and take your shoulder to the floor. Turn a little bit more toward the back of your head than the side of your face. Feel how your hips are stable in this position because of all that work you did. You're gonna press the back of your right hand into the ground, right arm presses down. Use that leverage to twist and see if you can free the left hand to sky. It's just an option, don't have to. Push down, right arm, reach up, left. Center, drop the hand, unravel, regroup in all fours, switch hand, block rather to left hand. Try to square chest as if your left hand were holding the block, but just move it off to the side because it's higher, that's why we're moving it to the side. And then we're gonna do that same 2 count lift. So you lift, it takes 2 counts to get the block up to the high point. So it goes 1, 2, you hold, 2, you take 2 counts to bring it down. We're just not rushing, that's all it is. Okay, do it again. Try not to shift too far to the right. Try not to twist. So nothing's moving except for that left hand. Good. Put the block down, thread the left hand behind the right wrist, drop your shoulder. Instead of being on the side of your face, tuck your chin in, kind of curl a little more towards the back of your head. Hips are being checked from going off to the right. Now press the back of your left arm into the mat, into the floor. You can stay with that or maybe consider lifting the right arm to the sky. Left arm pushes down firmly into the floor. Reach up high with the right if it's in the air. Hold, turn belly, stay in it. and then come out. Whew. Good job. Okay, we're gonna do one dog pose. You can always do puppy pose or child's pose, but this is gonna be kind of our put it all together in a harmonious way shape. So nice, straight, strong arms. Moving the chest deeper toward the legs. Send the hips high. Drop the heels down. Stay with it. One more breath. Okay, knees to the floor. Swing your feet forward. Have a seat. Stretch your legs out. Fold over your legs. You can use your block to support your head if that feels good to you. Slow down any rapid breathing, focusing the mind once more on just being present and curious to what you feel. Okay, sit on up. And then lie down on your back. I know it's really tempting to skip this, but for me today, please try to lie here for at least a minute. Just settle down, settle in. So we do a lot of different shapes that maybe you haven't done if you've just done kind of more traditional yoga. So you might feel strange or good, who knows? I'm gonna bring in a little technique that I like to use. I actually use this when I'm having trouble falling asleep, but I want you to use this to bring on that just before sleep state. So you're gonna start to count in your mind, you don't have to do this out loud, from 100 backwards toward 1. Now the goal is not to get to 1, is just to give your busy mind a task. So do that with your breath. So you would go exhale 100, inhale 99, exhale 98, inhale 97. Just keep some part of your kind of front thinking brain trained on that quietly. And with some other part of your brain, see if you can think about what it felt like to sleep last night. If you're someone who remembers dreams, maybe you start to point your attention in the direction of, what did you dream? Do you remember your dream? And this is to point the mind toward sleep or restfulness, not to necessarily have to remember what happened last night. So just stay with that a little longer. If you realize that you totally forgot what number you're on, that's perfect. That means it's working. Just go back to 100 and start over again. And if this is working for you and you want to stay longer, of course do. But if you need to finish up now, just let go of that counting. It doesn't matter if you're not to 1. I know all the Virgos out there are going to want to get that detail. Just let it go. Start to blink your eyes open, see where you are. Maybe roll the ankles and enjoy that spacious feeling maybe that you have in your mind or your body. And begin to reawaken on your own in any way that you want. I'm going to sign off from here. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.